St. Barthélemy, officially the Territorial collectivity of St. Barthélemy, is an overseas collectivity of France in the West Indies, often abbreviated to Saint-Barth in French, or St.Barts or Saint-Barths in English. The indigenous people called the island Ouanalao. St. Barthélemy lies about 35 kilometers southeast of St. Martin and north of St. Kitts. Puerto Rico is 240 kilometers to the west in the Greater Antilles. St. Barthélemy was for many years a French commune forming part of Guadeloupe, which is an overseas region and department of France. In 2003, the island voted in favor of secession from Guadeloupe in order to form a separate overseas collectivity of France. The collectivity is one of 4 territories among the Leeward Islands in the northeastern Caribbean that comprise the French West Indies, along with St. Martin, Guadeloupe southeast, and Martinique. St. Barthélemy, a volcanic island fully encircled by shallow reefs, has an area of 25 square kilometers and a population of 9,035. Its capital is Gustavia, which also contains the main harbor to the island. It is the only Caribbean island which was a Swedish colony for any significant length of time. Guadeloupe was under Swedish rule only briefly at the end of the Napoleonic Wars. Symbolism from the Swedish national arms, the 3 crowns, still appears in the island's coat of arms. The language, cuisine, and culture, however, are distinctly French. The island is a popular tourist destination during the winter holiday season, especially for the rich and famous during the Christmas and New Year period. History. Discovery. Before European contact, the island was possibly frequented by Eastern Caribbean Taino people. Christopher Columbus was the first European to encounter the island in 1493. He named it after his brother Bartolomeo. Sporadic visits continued for the next 100 years until formal colonization began taking shape. 17th century. By 1648, the island was settled from St. Christopher, but the settlement was attacked and destroyed by Caribs 6 years later. These first French settlers had been encouraged by de Poincy, the lieutenant governor of the French West India Company, and comprised about 50 to 60 settlers. Led by Jacques Gens, the new arrivals began cultivating cacao, until the Carib attack forced them to retreat. De Poincy was the dominant administrator in this period and a member of the Order of St. John. He facilitated the transfer of ownership from the Compagnie des Isles de l'Amérique to the Order. He continued to rule the island until his death in 1660. 5 years later, it was bought by the French West India Company along with the Order's other possessions in the Caribbean. By 1674, the company was dissolved and the islands became part of the French kingdom. 18th century, there was a very brief takeover by the British in 1758. The island was given to Sweden in 1784 in exchange for trade rights in Gothenburg. It was only after 1784, when King Louis XVI traded the island to Sweden, that the island's fortunes changed for the better. This change of control saw progress and prosperity as the Swedes declared Gustavia a free port, convenient for trading by the Europeans for goods, including contraband material. 19th century slavery was practiced in St. Barthélemy under the Ordinance Concerning the Police of Slaves and Free-Colored People of 1787. The last legally owned slaves in the Swedish colony of St. Barthélemy were granted their freedom by the state on the 9th of October 1847. Since the island was not a plantation area, the freed slaves suffered economic hardships due to lack of opportunities for employment. In 1852, a devastating hurricane hit the island and this was followed by a fire. Following a referendum in 1877, Sweden gave the island back to France in 1878, after which it was administered as part of Guadeloupe. 20th century. On the 19th of March 1946, the people of the island became French citizens with full rights. Many men from St. Barthélemy took jobs on St. Thomas in order to support their families. The island received electricity circa 1961. Tourism began in the 1960s, developed in the 1970s, and led to considerable international popularity beginning in the 1980s. Today the island is known for its exclusivity and posh tourism. 21st century St. Barthélemy was for many years a French commune forming part of Guadeloupe, which is an overseas region and department of France. Through a referendum in 2003, island residents sought separation from the administrative jurisdiction of Guadeloupe, and it was finally accomplished in 2007. The island of St. Barthélemy became an overseas collectivity. A governing territorial council was elected for its administration, which has provided the island with a certain degree of autonomy. The Hôtel de Ville, which was the town hall, is now the Hôtel de la Collectivité. A senator represents the island in Paris. St. Barthélemy has retained its free port status. Geography. Located approximately 250 kilometers east of Puerto Rico and the nearer Virgin Islands, St. Barthélemy lies immediately southeast of the islands of St. Martin and Anguilla. It is one of the Renaissance Islands. St. Barthélemy is separated from St. Martin by the St. Barthélemy Channel. It lies northeast of Saba and St. Eustatius, and north of St. Kitts. Some small satellite islets belong to St. Barthélemy, including Isle Chevreau, Isle Frégate, Isle Tottvers, Isle Tortue and Gros Islets. A much bigger islet, Isle Forque, lies on the north of the island, in the St. Barthélemy Channel. Other rocky islets which include Coco, the Rocks, the Goat and the Sugarloaf. Marine areas. St. Barthélemy forms, with St. Martin, Anguilla, and Dog Island, a distinct group that lies upon the western edge of a flat bank of soundings composed chiefly of shells, sand, and coral. From St. Barthélemy, the bank extends east-southeast, ending in a small tongue spit. It is separated from the main bank by a narrow length of deep water. East of the island, the edge of the bank lies 22 kilometers away. Grande Saline Bay provides temporary anchorage for small vessels, while Colombier Bay, to the northwest, has a 4 fathoms patch near mid-entrance. In the bight of St. Jean Bay there is a narrow cut through the reef. The north and east sides of the island are fringed, to a short distance from the shore, by a visible coral reef. Reefs are mostly in shallow waters and are clearly visible. The coastal areas abound with beaches, and many of these have offshore reefs, some of which are part of a marine reserve. The marine reserve, founded in 1999, covers more than 1,000 hectares of protected and vulnerable habitats, bays and islands, and includes a zone that is restricted to scientific observations only. As the sea surrounding the St. Barthélemy is rich in coral reefs and other precious marine life, the area has been declared a protected area since 1996. Environmental awareness is quite pronounced in St. Barthélemy and is promoted by the Environmental Commission. There are as many as 22 public beaches, of which 15 are considered suitable for swimming. They are categorized and divided into 2 groups, the leeward side and windward side. The windward beaches are popular for windsurfing. The beach of St. Jean is suitable for water sports, and facilities have been created for that purpose. The long beach at Lorient has shade and is a quiet beach as compared to St. Anne. Grand Cul-de-Sac is a long beach with facilities for water sports. Ansay-de-Flamand is a very wide sandy beach in La Petite-Ansay, just to the north of Ansay-de-Flamand, is very safe and popular with the locals for the children. Ansay-Toigny Beach is in a remote location and is considered suitable for experienced surfers as the water current is very strong. On the leeward side, the notable beaches are Ansay du Governor, Ansay du Colombier, which is only accessible by foot or by boat, Ansay de Grande Galley and Ansay de Grande Saline, which is popular with nudists. The area around the salt ponds near the Ansay de Grande Saline beach is marshy and is a habitat for tropical birds. Islet, an offshoot of the leeward side, has a wide sandy beach. Shell Beach, also called Ansay de Grande Galley, is a beach in the southwestern part of Gustavia. A large number of seashells are scattered on this beach. This beach was subject to the strong waves of Hurricane Lenny in 1999, which resulted in erosion of the sand. This necessitated supplementing the beach with new sand in 2000. On the north coast, on the far eastern side of the island, there are two lagoons called the Ansay de Marigot and Ansay du Grand Cul-de-Sac. Interior areas. Mont du Vertet, 286 meters in height, is the highest peak in the island. There are few sheep pens built with stone walls on the slopes of the mountain. A hill road leads to the Grand Cul-de-Sac from where scenic views of the entire coastline can be witnessed. Hills and valleys of varying topography cover the rest of the island. Two other hills near the island's east end are of nearly the same elevation at 262 and 250 meters above sea level. Populated areas. The population is spread among 40 quartiers, roughly corresponding to settlements. They are grouped into two paroisses. Climate. The island covers an area of 25 square kilometers. The eastern side is wetter than the western. Although the climate is essentially arid, the rainfall does average 1,000 mm annually, but with considerable variation over the terrain. Summer is from May to November, which is also the rainy season. Winter from December to April is the dry season. Sunshine is very prominent for nearly the entire year and even during the rainy season. Humidity, however, is not very high due to the winds. The average temperature is around 25 degrees Celsius with day temperatures rising to 32 degrees Celsius. The average high and low temperatures in January are 28 degrees Celsius and 22 degrees Celsius respectively, while in July they are 30 degrees Celsius and 24 degrees Celsius. The lowest night temperature recorded is 13 degrees Celsius. The Caribbean sea waters in the vicinity generally maintain a temperature of about 27 degrees Celsius. Demographics. According to the January 2011 population estimates, St. Barthélemy had 9,035 inhabitants. Residents of St. Barthélemy are French citizens and worked establishments on the island. Most of them are descendants of the first settlers, of Breton, Norman, Poitevin, Saint-Onge and Angevin lineage. French is the native tongue of the population. English is understood in hotels and restaurants, and a small population of Anglophones have been resident in Gustavia for many years. The St. Barthélemy French patois is spoken by some 500 to 700 people in the leeward portion of the island and is superficially related to Quebec French, whereas Creole French is limited to the windward side. Unlike other populations in the Caribbean, language preference between the Creole and patois is geographically and not racially determined. Politics and government. Until 2007, administratively, the whole island of St. Barthélemy was a French commune, part of Guadeloupe, which is an overseas region and overseas département of France, and therefore part of the European Union. In 2003, the population voted through referendum in favor of secession from Guadeloupe in order to form a separate overseas collectivity of France. On 7 February 2007, the French Parliament passed a bill granting com status to both St Barthélemy and to the neighboring St Martin. The new status took effect on 15 July 2007, when the first Territorial Council was elected. According to the law, the island has a president, a unicameral Territorial Council of 19 members who are elected by popular vote and serve for 5-year terms, and an Executive Council of 7 members. Elections to these councils were first held on 1 July 2007, with the most recent election in March 2012. One senator represents the island in the French Senate. The first election was held on 21 September 2008, with the last election in September 2014. St. Barthélemy became an overseas territory of the European Union on 1 January 2012, but the island's inhabitants remain French citizens with EU status, holding EU passports. France is responsible for the defense of the island and as such has stationed a security force on the island comprising 6 policemen and 13 gendarmes. The present head of state, since 15 May 2012, is President François Hollande, represented by a prefect appointed by the French president on the advice of the French Ministry of Interior. As a collectivity of France, the island's national anthem is La Marseillaise. Heraldry. The coat of arms of St. Barthélemy is a shield divided into 3 horizontal stripes, 3 gold fleurs de lis on blue, above a white and Maltese cross on red, over 3 gold crowns on blue, and reads Ouanalao on a white background. It serves as the unofficial flag of St. Barthélemy. Economy. Agricultural production on the island is difficult given the dry and rocky terrain, but the early settlers managed to produce vegetables, cotton, pineapples, salt, bananas and also fishing. Sweet potato is also grown in patches. The islanders developed commerce through the port of Gustavia, duty-free port attractions, retail trade, high-end tourism and its luxury hotels and villas have increased the island's prosperity, reflected in the high standard of living of its citizens. The official currency of St. Barthélemy is the euro. INSEE estimated that the total GDP of St. Barthélemy amounted to €179 million in 1999. In that same year, the GDP per capita of St. Barthélemy was €26,000, which was 10% higher than the average GDP per capita of metropolitan France in 1999. Handicrafts. Corossol is noted for its handicrafts. Weaving hats and bags from palm fronds is a low-income economic activity of the indigenous people. Tourism, international investment and the wealth generated by wealthy tourists explain the high standard of living on the island. St. Barthélemy is considered a playground of the rich and famous, especially as a winter haven, and is known for its beaches, gourmet dining and high-end designers. Most of the food is imported by airplane or boat from the US or France. Tourism attracts about 200,000 visitors every year. As a result, there is a boom in house-building activity catering to the tourists and also to the permanent residents of the island, with prices as high as €61,200,000 for a beachfront villa. St. Barthélemy has about 25 hotels, most of them with 15 rooms or fewer. The largest has 58 rooms. Hotels are classified in the traditional French manner: 3-star, 4-star and 4-star luxe. If particular note are Eden Rock and Cheval Blanc. Hotel La Tournée, the most expensive hotel on the island, has 12 rooms. Most places of accommodation are in the form of private villas, of which there are some 400 available to rent on the island. The island's tourism industry, though expensive, attracts 70,000 visitors every year to its luxury hotels and villas, and another 130,000 people arrive by luxury boats. It also attracts a labor force from Brazil and Portugal to meet the industry needs. The height of tourism is New Year's Eve, with celebrities and the wealthy converging on the island in yachts up to 550 feet in length for the occasion. Wildlife. Flora. As the terrain is generally arid, the hills have mostly poor soil and support only cacti and succulent plants. During the rainy season, the area turns green with vegetation and grass. The eastern part of the island is greener as it receives more rainfall. A 1994 survey has revealed several hundred indigenous species of plants, including the naturalized varieties of Flora, some growing in irrigated areas, while the dry areas are dominated by the cacti variety. Sea grapes and palm trees are a common sight, with mangroves and shrubs surviving in the saline coastal swamps. Coconut palm was brought to the island from the Pacific Islands. Important plants noted on the island are: there are flamboyant trees, Frangipanus, sabal palms, wild trumpet and manchineel trees on the island. Other trees of note include the royal palm, sea grape trees in the form of shrubs on the beaches, and as 5 to 7 meters trees in the interior areas of the island. Aloe or aloe vera, the night-blooming Cereus, Mammillaria nervosa, yellow prickly pear or Barbary fig, which was planted as barbed wire defenses against invading British Army in 1773. Mexican cactus, Staplia gigantea, golden trumpeter yellow bell, which was originally from South America, bougainvillea and others. Fauna. Marine mammals are many, such as the dolphins, porpoises and whales, which are seen here during the migration period from December till May. Turtles are a common sight along the coastline of the island. They are a protected species and in the endangered list. It is stated that it will take 15 to 50 years for this species to attain reproductive age. Though they live in the sea, the females come to the shore to lay eggs and are protected by private societies. 3 species of turtles are particularly notable. These are the leatherback sea turtles, which have leather skin instead of a shell, and the largest of the type found here, sometimes measuring as much as 3 meters and weighing about 450 kilograms. The hawksbill turtles, which have hawk-like beaks and found near reefs, generally about 90 centimeters in diameter and weigh about 60 kilograms, and the diet consists of crabs and snails. And the green turtles, herbivores, which have rounded heads, generally about 90 centimeters in diameter and live amidst tall sea grasses. Avifauna in the wild, both native and migrating, include brown pelican along the shoreline, magnificent frigate birds with long wingspans of up to 1.8 meters, green herons, snowy egrets, belted kingfishers, banana quits, broad-winged hawks, 2 species of hummingbirds, the green-throated carib and Antillean crested hummingbird, and Zenaida doves. Aqua fauna. The marine life found here consists of anemones, urchins, sea cucumbers, and eels, which all live on the reefs along with turtles, conch and many varieties of marine fishes. The marine aquafauna is rich in conch, which has pearly pink shells. Its meat is a favorite food supplement item, and the shells are a collector's item. Other species of fish which are recorded close to the shoreline in shallow waters are sergeant mages, the blue chromis, brown chromis, surgeon fish, blue tangs and trumpet fish. On the shore, ghost crabs, which always live on the beach in small burrowed tunnels made in in sand, and the hermit crabs, which live inland but lay eggs in water and which also eat garbage and sewerage. They spend some months in the sea during and after the hatching season. Marine Reserve. St. Barthélemy has a marine nature reserve, known as the Reserve Naturelle, that covers 1.20 hectares, and is divided into 5 zones all around the island to form a network of protected areas. The reserve includes the bays of Grand Cul-de-Sac, Colombier, Marigot, Petit Cul-de-Sac, Petit Anse, as well as waters around offshore rocks such as Les Gros Islets, Pain de Sucre, Tortue and Forque. The reserve is designed to protect the island's coral reefs, seagrass and endangered marine species including sea turtles. The reserve has 2 levels of protection: the yellow zones of protection, where certain non-extractive activities, like snorkeling and boating, are allowed, and the red zones of high protection, where most activities including scuba are restricted in order to protect or recover marine life. Anchoring is prohibited in the reserve and mooring buoys are in place in some of the protected bays like Colombier. Landmarks and architecture. Apart from Gustavia, the capital of Saint Barthélemy, there are many notable places and monuments in the island which testify to the colonial regime of the Spanish, Swedes, the British and the French, and now a French territory. Gustavia is in a U-shaped cove facing the harbour on the west. The waterside arm of this cove is in a peninsula while the dockyard is on the east side. When the British invaded the harbour town in 1744, the town's architectural buildings were destroyed. Subsequently, new structures were built in the town around the harbour area, and the Swedes had also further added to the architectural beauty of the town in 1785, with more buildings, when they had occupied the town. Earlier to their occupation, the port was known as Carénage. The Swedes renamed it as Gustavia in honor of the King Gustav III. It was then the prime trading center. The port maintained a neutral stance since the Caribbean War was on in the 18th century. They used it as trading post of contraband, and the city of Gustavia prospered, but this prosperity was short-lived. These buildings also underwent further destruction during the hurricanes and also by gutting in 1852. However, some monuments are still intact, such as the residence of the then Swedish governor, now the town hall. The oldest colonial structure in the town is stated to be the bell tower, built in 1799 as part of a church in the southeast end of the town on Rue du Presbytère. Now, a large clock is installed in place of the bell. The road that runs parallel to the harbour face of the sea, called the Rue de la République, and 2 other roads connect to the 2 arms of the U-shaped bay. The city has a network of roads, inherited from the Swedish period, that are laid in a grid pattern, which are either parallel or perpendicular to the 3 main roads that encompass the bay. Église Anglican de Gustavia. Église Anglican de Gustavia, the St. Bartholomew Anglican Church, is an important religious building in the town, built in 1885 with stones brought from St. Eustatius. It is on one of the most elegant roads of the town, called the Rue du Centenaire. It has a bell tower. A rock wall encircles the church. Ancient Presbytère de l'Église catholique de Gustavia. Ancient Presbytère de l'Église catholique de Gustavia is a Catholic church built in 1822 as a replacement of the oldest church of the same name in Lorient. This church also has a bell tower which is separated from the main church and which rings loud and clear. Musée Territorial District. Barthélemy. Musée Territorial District. Barthélemy is a historical museum known as the St. St.Barths Municipal Museum, also called the Wall House in Gustavia, which is located on the far end of La Pointe. The museum is housed in an old stone house, a two-story building which has been refurbished. The island's history relating to French, Swedish and British period of occupation is well presented in the museum with photographs, maps and paintings. Also in display are the ancestral costumes, antique tools, models of Creole houses and ancient fishing boats. It also houses a library. Gustavia Lighthouse. The 9 meters wide tower of the Gustavia Lighthouse was built in 1961. Situated on the crest of a hill north of the town, its focal plane is 64 meters above the level of the sea. It flashes every 12 seconds, white, green or red depending on direction. The round conical tower has a single red band at the top. Forts. Among the notable structures in the town of the 3 forts built by the Swedes for defense purposes. One of these forts, known as Fort Oscar, which overlooks the sea, is located on the far side of La Pointe. However, the ruins have been replaced by a modern military building which now houses the local gendarmerie. The other fort, known as Fort Carl, now presents a very few ruins. The third fort built by the Swedes is the Fort Gustav, which is also seen in ruins strewn around the weather station and the lighthouse. The fort, built in 1787 over a hill slope, has ruins of ramparts, guardhouse, munitions depot, wood-burning oven and so forth. Savaku. A statue, Savakus representing the Arawak Indians, is present at St.